I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules
So moved.
by Mr. Lawrence.
I'll second.
By Mr. Guines. Any discussion? All in favor? It's a 6-0 vote. Thank you. If the clerk will read the additions, please, to the agenda.
To the consent agenda, we're adding resolution authorizing entry into preliminary engineering services contract with Neil Schaefer, Inc. for Pops Ferry Bridge to Pash Road to Riverview Drive. We're adding resolution requesting Harrison County support in loan of a towable stage for use at Christmas in the city.
Thank you.
I moved agenda as amended.
And I'll second it.
Agenda, motion by Mr. Lawrence, second by Mr. Guines. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. It's a 6-0 vote for the clerk. Test, much better, sorry. That brings us to the mayor's report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I want to handle the presentation of a pretty good check to someone. I asked our pickleball players, and Tom, come up, pickleball, Tom. I think maybe you're inspiring me.
Y'all pickleball guys.
Well, I was supposed to get up there?
Just the pickleball guys.
I thought about playing one time.
Yeah, everybody.
Pretty quick.
This is a bit, y'all did notice I'm wearing pink today, right? Yes, okay.
It's very nice.
Miles at house, final.
Okay, very good.
Kenny, you're looking good.
Tom.
The City of Biloxi Parks and Recreation and Mississippi Gulf Coast Pickleball hosted a charity tournament, a pickleball tournament on October 30th to raise funds for the Real Men Wear Pink campaign, which supports the American Cancer Society to fight breast cancer. Breast cancer.
Breast cancer.
These two ladies have both survived breast cancer. We're here today to present a check for $18,000 to the American Cancer Society. Mayor Gilish will present for the city, and Dan Hunter, our committee chair for the event, will present for Mississippi Gulf Coast Pickleball. Pam Robinson and Susan Ray are also here to present the check, and they're both breast cancer survivors, as I mentioned. Here to receive the check for the American Cancer Society is LaWanda Jones, Senior Development Manager for the South Region, and also Kenny Glavin. Kenny is a former Real Men Wear Pink ambassador, and he also videoed the whole event, and it's all over our Facebook site and everything else. But it was a very wonderful event. So with no further ado, please, Mayor.
Well, looks like you have the check in your hand, but I want to congratulate everybody that had part of this. We're just, so appreciative. This dreadful thing that God only knows why. But I think it's up to us that these kinds of monies and efforts will kind of minimize or at least make people aware and actually move forward with the cure for this disease. So I'll hand it over to you, but I thank you, and I thank Tom. I thank everybody who participated in Kenny in making this a great cause.
One thing I want to say is the city did an incredible job helping us host this event, so thank you very much.
Great, thank you. You like to say anything? Yeah. We got to, okay. Well, thank y'all. We got the photo up. We got it on television. Very good.
Okay.
Thank y'all so much. Kenny, good job. Good job. Thank you so much. Yeah. A little photo op. Okay.
Oh, picture. Come on, jump in.
We're good here. All right. Suitable for the World Wide Web, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you. I think we got some folks from Mississippi Power here to come up, give us a little brief update. There you go. You sit or stand, either way, whatever you like. There.
versus mine.
Right.
That'd probably fix that, wouldn't it? For the city of Biloxi, you have a total of 3,500 plus or minus 20 or 30 lights. Street lights that are paid for through the city. At the current moment, we've upgraded 500 to LED, 350 of which we have put the networked lighting controls, which we've discussed with you. We've completed a majority of our fixtures throughout the Highway 90 corridor. We did a lot of that the week before cruising the coast, trying to get everything repaired. Outside of that, we've got Irish Hill done, Porter from Highway 90 north to Howard, and then Howard from I-110 west back to Porter. And it's still going to be it's probably going to be 2 to 3 years. We're falling behind just because of material. We expected to have Highway 90 done probably 3 months ago. So, but that's pretty much where we're at right now. Do y'all have any questions for me on it?
We're appreciative of the efforts together. The bridge, I think, was some of the things that happened on the bridge, just at the beginning of, what we need to do together. But, we're appreciative of Mississippi Power and its efforts to work together. And that's what it's going to take. And Mike?
Can I borrow your mic, sir? Speaking of bridges, Pops Ferry Bridge, I understand you all have a solution for us. I'm told that the solution has to do with the stepping down the power or
The
stepping it
voltage?
up so that we don't have to have the, okay,
Oh,
the
so this is-
electrical engineer is going to tell me the answer.
Yeah, this is
How you
Bryce
gonna-
Johnson. This
'cause
was
we
his
get answer-
project.
We get questions on every council meeting about Pops Ferry Bridge. And I keep being told that it has to do with the step down from 420 down to whatever, and, with the fact that we had to have ballast or something that kicked the things on, and that you guys have got a solution that'll solve that problem.
Yes, sir. So right now, they're 480 volt feeding the lights, and you have a step-down transformer to step it down to 240 or 120. I'm sorry.
Just pick it up.
Sit down. You don't have to swear in, so it's okay.
So right now, you have 480 volt feeding the lights, and you have a step-down transformer stepping the voltage down to feed the lights that you have up there. So what we're going to do is buy 480 volt lights. That way, we do away with the transformer, and it's just fed directly from your source. So there's no
Genius,
additional piece.
genius. I can't believe we took us this long to figure that out. So that so we had to step down the voltage to the smaller bulbs. We just need to have bigger bulbs all this time, more powerful. Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Any schedule on when that's going to happen?
Well, once we get the signed agreement back, we'll order material. Lead times are kind of crazy right now, so probably 8 weeks to get the material. And then the week the material comes in, we should have the lights installed.
Okay, well, thank you very much. This is badly needed. I had one last question about the lights all through the city. How do we know, just by looking at a light, that it's an LED light?
So,
I know, I'm just saying,
When it's not on.
yeah.
yeah, so most of the stuff you have up now, which we call HID, is high-pressure sodium fixtures, and it'll give off more of a yellow light. At nighttime, that's how you would know the difference. During the day, most of our HID fixtures have globes on them, whereas the LED are going to be flat and there's no bulbs protruding from the bottom of the fixture.
So it's at night more of a yellowish color?
The LEDs will be white.
Whiter, okay, good. Thank you. That's just one for the people in the peanut gallery.
Very good. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
We have a question for you.
Speaking of the
On
peanut gallery.
Highway 90, all the lights on Highway 90 are owned by Mississippi Power, some owned by the city of Biloxi. Do y'all keep those lit too?
So and I believe that's on the agenda as well, we maintain the city-owned lights at the current moment, but we can't upgrade them until, that lease
plan,
is signed, or however we end up going about doing it, but those are still HID fixtures.
And so we'd have to go through the administration and get them upgraded?
Yes, sir.
LED lights?
Yeah.
I believe the lease is on the agenda this
Item
afternoon.
5T. Item 5T, in the consent agenda, lighting services standard lease agreement and outdoor lighting maintenance agreement. We can get into that later.
All right, there are actually two agreements on today's agenda. One is to replace and maintain the lights on the Pops Ferry Bridge, and the other is to maintain, I think, what's currently maintained by Mississippi Power on Highway 90, and also add a few other poles, I believe. But as Mr. Leonard noted, that's a little further down today's agenda. Any other questions, Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, well, I think what we're doing is great, but I think we need to look throughout the city. There's a lot of lights in the city by the power company and us that need to be on, they're not on.
Yeah,
We
and then
need to find out if it's a construction problem, we need to see if they can fix them, and we need to definitely upgrade all of them with LED lights. There's no doubt about that. So we have to do it, to get that done, you let us know, and we'll get it done.
Well, Mississippi Power, correct me if I'm wrong, Mississippi Power is, and that was the basis of some of today's report, Mississippi Power is replacing the street lights in the city of Biloxi with LED lights, correct? From DeBees East, I think.
So the
was
update
plan.
that I was giving you on, those are the Mississippi-owned lights. What's on the agenda would be the city-owned fixtures on Highway 90. So we would still maintain everything like we do now. The only difference will be is we will put our fixtures up there and still maintain it as we do now. You'll just be leasing the fixtures from us, and we'll upgrade them to LED.
I think that's great. My problem is, let's go through the whole town. Let's upgrade the city. Have no problem with what we're doing today, that's a good thing. You gotta light the city up. It's time to do that. Thank you.
George, I agree. George.
Were there,
I agree. I agree.
were there any other comments, gentlemen? Were there any other comments? Were there any further comments from the folks from Mississippi Power?
So I think with,
This one, there you go.
If you were asking about the citywide update, we have been working with him and Rachel, and we have an agreement with the city to upgrade every light to LED. It's just going to be a 2 to 3 year process to do it. And we're also installing what we call the network lighting controls, which we hope, and the plan is to make the repair time less.
Yeah, but I know, we're trying to do that in the Greater Southern, the division, behind the Treasure Bay. They're trying to upgrade some of them lights, but, they need, every ward needs to upgrade with these lights. They need to just light the city up.
So,
Doing it piece by piece, but you just gotta put it all in action, that's all.
some of the things that have been on our radar for a couple of years, and some of the things I know, from a technology standpoint, the location, who owns what and where, as far as I know, on Highway 90, you got a number on each one of those poles, and we've got a significant investment in GIS, and we'd like to kind of coordinate that, because if we ever go to an automated situation where, a citizen can report, where they are, and sort of understanding where they see the light out, even though they may give you a different address, but just some of the things we want to do. Get in sync with our technology, but we got 77 layers of information on our GIS system, so marry it up, probably using the same ARC info that everyone uses.
Right.
So that's part of what I think we could work out together to really lock out. If there is a problem, we know where it is. And, yeah.
So that's one of the main purposes of switching to the NLCs, because there is a lot of confusion. Even if we provide maps,
Right.
not everybody knows
No,
whose is whose. So these NLCs will let us know when there's a voltage issue, a wattage issue. If a light's out, we'll know about it.
Right. Well, good deal. We're appreciative of that help, and that technology is going to push us together a long way. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else under the mayor's report?
Yeah, no, we have one little update. I don't know if anybody was up at 6:40 this morning, but I did a Zoom. Was it Zoom or Skype? I don't know what I did, Zoom, yeah. But I did get up a little early and talked a little bit about the challenges and the things that we're going to see in the future with infrastructure. And of course, a couple of months ago, we informally teamed up with the United Bridge Partners to explore. And, as far as the Richter scale is being turned up with regard to infrastructure, and we know the need has been there, and it'll still be there 20 years from now if we do nothing. So we brought the whole team today to give us an update. So I would invite everybody and all y'all to come on up and give us an update on what they're exploratory of what the possibilities are and how to work together and utilize any of this infrastructure money that will be available, that we can put this bridge in this causeway together for the accomplishment of what we need to do. I'll turn it over to you.
Terrific, thank you.
Want to use the handheld if you like.
Sure, I'm going to be brief. Hello. Thank you so much, and my name is Doug Witt. I'm President and CEO of United Bridge Partners. Here with me are Ryan Dolan, he's Head of Development, Ken Sliga from Operations, and Lee Whitney with Finance, and so the whole team is here. And one of the messages I want to share is this is what we do, what Ryan's going to talk about in a couple of minutes, and it's all we do. Secondly, we prioritized Biloxi, and you are a significant priority for us right now. And we'd love to serve you if it fits with you as well. And then finally, and I'm just going to turn it over in just a second, I'd say that we've been working here quite a while with the community on a number of fronts for quite a while. And from our perspective, we're ready to go. And I mean with 100% certainty. And when I speak of certainty, I mean 100% fully funded tomorrow. And when I talk about certainty, I mean 100% certain in terms of delivery of a new bridge by 2026. So Ryan Dolan's going to walk through that right now as to what we might be able to offer, if this resonates with you here, and I'm going to turn it over to him at this time. Thank you. Thank you.
So you all should have some presentation materials in front of you, and if we could project it on the screen as well. Again, my name's Ryan Dolan. I lead our business development efforts at United Bridge Partners. Today, we just wanted to bring you through a brief presentation. I'll be as brief as possible, where we'll just introduce our company and who we are, talk a little bit about the background of this specific project with the Pops Ferry Bridge, give an overview of the proposal that we've made to the city, and then leave time for any questions or comments that you all might have. So we can go forward 2 slides here. Yeah, so first, United Bridge Partners, we're a developer, owner, and operator of toll bridge replacement projects in the U.S. And really, our company was created to address the significant bridge infrastructure funding issues in this country. As you're well aware, there's simply just, more needs than there are resources to address all bridge issues. So we were created to, fill that gap and use our funding and expertise to, deliver more bridge projects. Essentially what we offer is a turnkey solution to repair or replace bridges in need for whatever reason it might be. So capacity expansion, the condition of the bridge might be in very poor shape. So what we offer to public agencies like the City of Biloxi is, as Doug mentioned, 100% full funding for all project requirements. Will be funded day one with our commitments, and then we take full end-to-end responsibility for project delivery. So any permitting that has to be done, environmental work, we work with our network of design, engineering, and construction partners to actually deliver the project in an accelerated time frame. And then once our structures are open to traffic, we operate, maintain, and provide all tolling customer service over the long term, either under an ownership model or a long-term lease. So we can go forward. So we've implemented this, this model in a number of places throughout the U.S. We have a proven track record of delivering on this, and we're currently in 5 states. We have 6 different bridge projects, really in all different phases of the project life cycle. So we have 2 bridges that are currently fully open to traffic, one in Chesapeake, Virginia, one in East Chicago, Indiana. And then we have 4 other bridge projects that are currently in development, either under construction or in the design and permitting phase. And those are in Joliet, Illinois, Bay City, Michigan, and Parkersburg, West Virginia. So I would say the similarities for all of these projects to Biloxi are that these were cities that had a major infrastructure challenge and a lack of funding and expertise to deliver a bridge replacement or bridge repair project. And so we came in, offered our full funding and delivery solution, and we're able to support these communities, or we're in the process of supporting these communities. We have references from all of these projects that we'd be happy to share with any of you. So we can go forward. So, the Pops Ferry Corridor project is a larger project. We're specifically talking about our solution for the Phase 2 project, which is replacement of the Pops Ferry Bridge, and then roadway improvements and widening between Pass Road and Riverview Drive. So just wanted to kind of set the groundwork there. We can go forward. So you're all, I'm sure, well aware of the challenges with the bridge, the challenges with the bascular drawbridge nature of the bridge, the traffic congestion, things of that nature. And so the goals of this project really are to improve the reliability of the bridge. And so, we're looking to improve evacuation readiness in the event of hurricanes or other natural disasters, declared state of emergencies, increase capacity. So the project's going to go from a 2-lane corridor, a 2-lane roadway, to a 4-lane. So we're going to increase capacity of the network, hopefully cut down on some of those traffic delays and congestion. And then overall, I would just say, the whole project the intent is to improve safety and quality of life overall in Biloxi. So we can go forward. So this project has been in development for about 15 to 20 years now, but we became involved about a year and a half ago when we approached the city to discuss the idea of delivering this project using our approach. And so we formally made a proposal to the city in June of 2020 to replace the bridge and do the roadway widening as a tolled facility. The city determined that was a viable option in order to secure full funding for the project and then accelerate delivery, over a 5-year time period. And so they put out a competitive request for proposal out to the market in August of that year. In December, we submitted an updated proposal as part of that RFP process. I understand the city also received a number of other bids to deliver the project. And then in August of this year, as the mayor mentioned, he formally selected our proposal to kind of move forward in the next step of exploration and to discuss a development agreement with the city. And so over the course of 2021, I understand the city has continued to look for traditional public sources at the state and federal level. We at UBP have continued to discuss what a development agreement would look like with the city. We've also done some work internally to look at the design of the project and specifically the roadway widening project and how we might optimize that. And we also conducted some focus groups in the neighborhood just to see what the feedback from community members was to this concept. Going forward, I'll just say, the intent is once the agreement gets to a level that it's ready to be shared with City Council, I would assume the city will bring it forward, and eventually you'll have the opportunity to vote to move forward with the project or not. So I don't want to speak for the city in terms of timing on that, but I think that would be the logical next step. So we can move forward. So you might be wondering, why does the city have to even consider a project like this utilizing private funding and tolling? And the fact is that the city of Biloxi is in a really unique and challenging position in that, it's a city or a local municipality that owns a large, very complex piece of infrastructure that's become a liability in terms of the cost and complexity to replace the structure. And so, the way these projects are usually funded and delivered is with a combination of federal grants and funding, state funding, and then local funds or bonding or self-provided funds. And that really puts Biloxi in a challenging position in that federal grants are extremely competitive to secure. So as an example, in 2019, only about 5 to 10% of federal grant applications were awarded. So extremely competitive to secure those grants. In terms of state funding, this is an off-system or a bridge that is not owned by the state. So often a project like this won't be prioritized at the state level. And a lot of the user fees, the use taxes and gas taxes won't go to a project like this. And then lastly, a city typically doesn't have the capability to fully self-perform or self-finance a project of this magnitude. And so that puts the city in a difficult position. And oftentimes a private solution, including tolling, is the fastest and easiest way to implement a project like this in a timely manner. So, the main benefits of an approach like this, I would say, are full funding can be secured much quicker. On this project, we've committed 100% of project requirements. Speed of delivery, so again, you can address the project much quicker than you would under a traditional project delivery and a traditional way of financing these projects. And then thirdly, risk transfer. So under these contracts, you shift risk from the city onto us as the private partner. So that includes upfront financing risk, all project delivery risks, so cost escalation, keeping on schedule and budget. That's all our responsibility. And then over the long term, we take on all maintenance and operation risk as well. So it kind of relieves the city of all upfront and ongoing liabilities. So we can go forward. So at a high level, what we've proposed is, as Doug mentioned, to fully fund and deliver the Phase 2 project, so a replacement of the bridge and all roadway improvements. We'll relieve the city of all ongoing liabilities and financing responsibility, and then we've committed to operate the bridge to a very high standard over the life of the contract. In terms of tolling, our number one goal on this project was to offer the lowest toll rates possible and toll rates that favor Biloxi residents and are community friendly. So I'll go into that a little bit later, but it's very important to us to offer something that the community can accept, and then our intent is to keep toll rates as low as possible over the long term. So we can go forward. So in terms of the details, in terms of the design, what we've committed to build is a 4-lane fixed span replacement of the current structure. And so there would no longer be a drawbridge or a bascule on the bridge. It would be a fixed span bridge. It would have a 95-foot vertical clearance, a 220-foot horizontal clearance, meaning that cars could travel the bridge at the same time that boats are traveling underneath. So this is going to solve a major hurricane evacuation issue. Going to 4 lanes is going to alleviate a lot of the traffic woes that you guys are experiencing here. And we're also going to widen and improve the roadway north and south of the bridge. Now, the widened roadway does require pretty significant home acquisitions. So it calls for about 80 homes to be acquired between Pass Road and Riverview Drive. In our opinion, this is under the currently federally approved design of the project. It's our opinion, this is a pretty significant impact to the neighborhood and the community. And so we've already initiated with our engineer what we're calling a roadway optimization study to see how we might minimize the number of homes that have to be acquired. We're in the process of doing that right now, but this is going to have a major cost savings, first of all, and then number two, it's going to limit the impact to the community. So we think that's a pretty important part of what we're doing on the project right now. In terms of funding, this is about, at this point, a $150 million construction project, probably 170 to 180 all in. We've committed that 100%. And so we require zero funding from any state sources, any local or any federal sources whatsoever. So in that sense, we're taking on full financing responsibility. We've committed those funds. And then we'll also take on entire project delivery risk and long-term operations and maintenance risk. Our proposal also includes a $2 million development fee paid to the city of Biloxi for involvement in the project. In terms of delivery, I'll go into the schedule in a few slides here, but our guiding principles, if you will, number one is safety for obviously the workers on site and then the traveling public. Speed of delivery, so we want to, keeping safety in mind, deliver this project as quickly as possible for the community, and then limiting public disruption as much as possible. So in that regard, our construction team has phased the work so that the existing bridge and roadway can remain open while we're building the new bridge east of and parallel to the existing structure. So we're trying to limit disruption on the neighborhood as much as possible. Once the new bridge is up and open to traffic, we've also committed to demolishing and removing the existing bridge. Right now, we intend to use pieces of that structure as an artificial reef offshore. This has been done on a number of other projects across the country. In terms of how we'll maintain and operate the structure, as I said, we take on full responsibility. So any minor maintenance that has to happen, like street sweeping, debris cleanup, we take that on. And then any major rehabs or renovation in the future over the term of the contract, we take that on as well. So if the deck has to be replaced in the future, if a barge hits the bridge, which has happened, if there's a major hurricane that damages the bridge, we're liable for making those upgrades as well. And we'll be doing this out of a local office here in Biloxi. So I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm not going to be operating a bridge in Biloxi from Denver. So we're going to hire an all-local general management team, customer service operation, and maintenance team that will sit here in Biloxi. It's also important to us that we put down roots and invest in the community. So we intend to be active members of the Chamber of Commerce. We've already joined the Chamber. We have a support letter included in your materials there from them. And we also invest in, charitable causes and other community initiatives as a good member of the community. So we pride ourselves on being good neighbors on all of our projects. And so if I just had to summarize the main benefits of the project, it's improving the reliability of the overall corridor, its speed of delivery, and its full funding. So again, we've committed the full funding up front. And it's also going to have a significant economic impact on the area. Just a construction project of this magnitude is going to have significant job creation, economic stimulus as workers spend time and money in the community. And then again, over the long term, this reliable infrastructure kind of equips the area for future growth and for future business opportunities. So we can go to the next slide here. So this is just a rendering, and specifically you can see here that the bascule part of the bridge is gone. Boats can use the bridge as the same time as cars. So we can go forward. So we've put together a fantastic fully baked team to deliver the project. We've already partnered with all of these firms, so we're ready to proceed, ready to mobilize. And all of these firms have a lot of experience delivering this type of project in a Gulf Coast environment within Mississippi and within the region. So first of all, Biloxi Bridge Partners, they're going to be the local subsidiary of our company, United Bridge Partners. Again, we're going to provide full funding. We'll be the main point of contact and responsible party for project delivery, and then we'll operate and maintain the structure over the long term. Bow Brothers, they're a Louisiana-based heavy civil contractor. They specifically have expertise with this type of marine construction. They're located only about an hour and a half away from the project site, and they'll be responsible for all construction activities. Our engineering team is led by Volkert, which is based out of Mobile, Alabama, also supporting us out of their Jackson, Mississippi office. They're going to be the overall lead for the design of the project. And then we have a number of locally based sub-consultants on the engineering team as well. Brown, Mitchell, and Alexander is kind of our prime sub. They're going to be responsible for the roadway design, and they've also been involved in the environmental assessment. So they bring a lot of knowledge and, institutional knowledge to the project. And then finally, Majeski and Masters, they're a nationally renowned expert in bridge projects. They're going to be our eyes and ears on the project, coordinating between the contractor and the engineering team as our independent engineer. And then lastly, we have a number of firms that are supporting us with government relations, integrating into the community, public affairs, things of that nature. Capital Resources, the Focus Group, Adams and Reese, and Bullseye, they're helping us, with a lot of these community initiatives that are important on these types of projects. So I've listed a number of project examples on the next slide, but we can go forward too. You can go one more. So in terms of the schedule, as I mentioned, it was most important that we deliver this project safely, as fast as possible, and then limiting public disruption. So we've estimated an aggressive, but we think achievable schedule of about a 4-year timeline. And so some of the long lead time items here, obviously right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, and the permitting process are going to take quite a while, and then we have about a 2-year construction timeline. So this schedule is going to continue to evolve, but again, we think that a 4-year timeline is achievable. And compared to a more traditional project delivery and funding package, this is greatly expedited and accelerated versus how it's traditionally done. So we're confident that we can meet this schedule, and again, any changes to this will be communicated, and we'll publish a rolling schedule as the project is delivered over the next several years. So we can go forward. Okay, so the question you all probably have is on the toll rates, obviously. As I said, the number one goal of the project was to offer as low a toll rates as possible and rates that don't overly burden Biloxi residents, since they're going to be the primary users of the structure. And so, we're not going to overburden them. It's not in our best interest to charge high toll rates, because if they're too high, no one will use the bridge. So in terms of the structure of the tolling package, no tolls will be charged prior to the bridge being open after the 4-year project delivery period. During any hurricane evacuation, declared state of emergency, tolls will obviously be waived. And then city vehicles like police, fire, emergency services, school buses, those will use the bridge free of charge as well. It will be an all-electronic open road tolling system. So what that means is there won't be a cash-based payment system. You won't have to slow down or stop to pay your toll at a gantry or a gated barrier. It'll be open road. So you'll either pay via a transponder or a sticker that's in your car that's linked to an account, and it'll automatically kind of deduct the toll from your account. Or if you choose not to have a transponder or an account, an invoice will be mailed to your address on record, and that's how you can pay. So this is a similar system that's been implemented in Florida and Louisiana and Texas and a lot of other areas in the country. And we understand that this is a new system here, and people might be unfamiliar with tolling. So one of the first efforts of our general management team is to provide tolling education, get transponders and accounts, into the community so that, people understand the system and can use it from day one. In terms of the rates, again, we wanted to offer subsidized rates to Biloxi residents. So those are estimated to start at $1 to $1.25 per trip. And then we're also going to offer an unlimited use pass, or all-you-can-eat type pass, that's estimated to start at $30 to $35 a month. So that's specifically going to benefit those drivers and those community residents that use the bridge multiple times a day. And this is an important part to offer preference to Biloxi residents. And then also, in talking to the community, we understand the bridge is used, parents are just trying to get their kids to school. So we're also going to offer a school commuter discount, and we're looking into that right now. But, we think that this is a structure that's beneficial for the area. Again, tolling is the way to most quickly implement the project, and this is what we've included in our offering. So,
Let me interrupt you right now.
ahead.
This is a totally financed package at those rates is what you're saying. The worst case scenario is if you take the whole $180 million to the course of the project. If we're able to, and this is some of the things that we're going to be challenged and looking into, I'm going to ask Steve Tweed to come follow up on some things, but if we're able to get 50% of this through conventionals, I mean, they've assured us that we won't be boxed out from this, but take advantage of whatever we can secure in delivering the product.
So
Correct
yes,
me if I'm wrong.
this is assuming that we are going to fully fund the project. And any sort of other funds that are contributed, obviously it depends when they can be secured, what the cost of the project is at that point, how many years down the line it is. But yes, these are the rates that we've proposed, assuming that we are going to
Okay,
fully
the
fund.
whole package, right?
Yep. So we can go forward. So we've included protections that we will put in the development agreement for the city of Biloxi. Number one, in terms of our funding, we'll provide a letter from our chairman showing that the funds have been dedicated for this project and this project only. So it's, proof that the project is going to be fully funded from day one. In terms of quality assurance, we understand the city, and we see this on our other projects, the city might not have the in-house capability to review a project and the designs for a project of this magnitude. And so we've offered to fund an independent regulatory review engineer that we'll pay for, that will work for the city to review all of our plans to make sure they're in line with all state and federal guidelines. I think that the city intends to use Neil Schaefer probably in that role. In terms of inspections, we're going to abide by the federal standards for inspections. So once the bridge is open, it'll be on a every 2-year basis, and we'll provide those inspection reports to the city and to the State Department of Transportation. If we fail to operate to a high standard, there are also reversion clauses, meaning that the brand new bridge would revert to the city free of charge if we, for whatever reason, fail to perform or don't abide by the terms of the contract. And then the tolling rates that I've told you here today will be memorialized in the contract as well, and any sort of the process for modifying those rates will also be included. And then finally, as I mentioned, the local office, right? We're not going to be a faceless company that delivers the bridge and then you'll never see us again. We'll have a local presence here in Biloxi, so if you have to voice a complaint or just want face-to-face interaction, you can come in and see us. So we can go forward. Just the last thing I would want to address today. So we wanted to understand how the community feels about this type of project, given it's a very new concept. And so we commissioned some focus groups to be done for community members to give their opinions on the project. And as you might expect, at first, when you introduce the idea of a toll to community members, they say no, right? They don't like the idea of a toll. They don't want to pay for something that they're not currently paying for. And that's not unexpected. But there were some interesting findings from the focus group. The first one being, there's clearly a need to replace the bridge. And, the residents that attended the focus groups want it replaced sooner rather than later, right? They talked about the time they wasted in traffic, the issues they had with the drawbridge, the congestion issues, things of that nature. So it was the need for the project was very clearly established. Also not unexpected, they would prefer that, the government replace, fully fund the project. But interestingly, they acknowledged that they didn't have confidence that could be done in a timely manner. So taking that into account, they understand that this is a very good way to accelerate delivery of the project and make this happen now. They also acknowledge that toll roads that they have experience on are typically operated and maintained better than more public roads. And at the end of the day, I think the main takeaway was just that, people want a new bridge and they want the project to be delivered soon. And with that, they're willing to accept and come around on a toll once you educate them and explain the situation to them. So, these focus groups gave us confidence that this approach could work in Biloxi. And, we could educate the public on why this is a good idea for Biloxi. So, going forward, I'll reiterate that, we're excited to get started on the project. As I said, we're ready to proceed whenever you are at the city. And, with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you all might have.
I have just 3 comments. The first one is, and this may be for Peter too, is there an opportunity to create, for lack of a better phrase, an economic opportunity corridor, almost working like a TIF, and if there's economic development around the corridor that this bridge goes in, those funds could go in to offset the overall toll cost, and we could reduce those costs to our citizens. That's one comment. The other comment is on the timeline. It took considerable less time to rebuild the Ocean Springs-Biloxi Bridge after Katrina. And, you mentioned 4 years, and that may be a moving timeline depending on what happens. And then the last thing, you mentioned that you're giving a $2 million fee to the city, paying for a dedicated employee for, I guess engineering, consulting, or that sort of thing. If you took that out, would it reduce the cost or reduce the toll cost?
Yeah, so I'll address all those comments. To your last comment, again, this is about a $170 million project at this point. So the $2 million is really, it doesn't have a big impact. And the reason we include that is because the city is going to have to devote resources on the project, and we want to make sure that they have the funding to stay involved in the project. Regarding the schedule, the pre-construction period is extended compared to a normal project just because of those long lead time items like I talked about, specifically the right-of-way acquisition. And then there's going to have to be an environmental update to take into account the tolling component and the optimized roadway. So there's a little bit more time on the front end. And then a 2-year construction period is actually a pretty aggressive timeline. So, we didn't want to be too aggressive where it was unrealistic, but we definitely think that's an achievable timeline.
Okay.
Mr. Lawrence?
Can you hear me? Do we still have the right to create money from the state? Anybody to add to this project?
Well, we could.
Pay the bill? Or can you do a combination like federal grants in this?
Let me answer that. And Steve has been working with us on how to accomplish that. And our last meeting was talking about how this can be, put together where the impact to the citizens would be minimized in every opportunity. We're hopeful that if we chose today, we don't want to be boxed out of, the opportunity, because as it was said, competition is going to be some kind of fierce for the 1.2 trillion and I don't know how much for bridges, but it's down in a couple of $100 billion as far as Mississippi. And this is I don't want to repeat what Steve's going to say. This is the most expensive project that MDOT would have on the radar. So there will probably wind up with some combination of both in whatever workable fashion. But we can't expect a total refinancing or financing of this project any kind of stretch. We're going to need that private know-how in capital to accomplish the replacement of this bridge. So I didn't answer your question, but we don't want to box our way out of this by entering into an agreement that would keep us from doing that. Well, I think we'll have some success. We're already talking, to different folks about where our shots could come. We've engaged Steve Tweet and Neil Schaefer to kind of parallel our efforts with the UBP in figuring out what the actual parallel cost. See, don't let me say anything that's not true. But you know, we're kind of focusing on together. This makes sense. You know, and again, to take advantage of anything that may come our way, and they're willing. They've been great partners into saying this makes sense, because these are extraordinary times with all this talk of infrastructure. Otherwise, we'd be out by ourselves, the only one way out, and UBP would be the only way out, unless you wanted to wait 15 more years. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I would say just on the federal funding, as I said, they're extremely competitive. So just to give you a reference point, about $40 billion was included for bridge projects in the new bill. $225 million has come down to Mississippi through MDOT for bridge projects. So it's about $45 million a year. You know, the project will also be eligible for a new grant program, the Bridge Investment Program. But again, it's going to be extremely competitive to secure that funding, and there's only about $12.5 billion over 5 years. So, you know, I think that we also have to be realistic that it is going to be extremely difficult to secure those funds. And I want to be sensitive to the time. If it takes 2 years to get those funds, the cost of the project might go up, 15, 20%, given the cost escalation and inflationary environment we're in right now. So our priority is, again, getting started as soon as possible, just because we know that costs are going to continue to go up on the project.
Let me address from Gavon, in talking about that, if those corridors are there, and we may be able to, aside from this, interact with the people who use that directly. As long as that $30 a month is subsidized some kind of way, the net impact is the same. So these other things that we expect to come along with the development of this thing will have some, a monetization of the, ability to do that and reduce it. We know that we're all in cost at $1.25 and $35 a month. So we can work ways to accomplish the same thing. But as was said, time is of the essence, and everything's going up. I think 13% per year is what you can expect, I believe.
Yep.
So my question, to clarify this, we have Keesler. It's Homeland Security. We have evacuation routes for Keesler Air Force Base and a lot of military. So we should have competitive, but somebody needs to step up. I'm just saying, I have no problem getting this started, but I'm just saying, if you create the money to pay it off, there's no reason for us not to be able to do that. I mean, we got to evacuate Keesler. We got a lot of, So the Homeland Security should step up and take care of this problem, at least help us.
I had one question, and it has to do with right-of-way acquisition. This is a question that has come up at multiple board meetings, and I know that you'll probably all be asked that question again. Today, we've just finishing one, and has one in the way where we're doing a lot of right-of-way acquisition, and we do that through the just compensation methodology, or if forced through eminent domain. How do the rules work with a private builder? Are you still stuck with the same rules we are?
Yeah, so we follow all the same rules in terms of compensation and providing them all the rules under the law, right? We would fund and execute those property acquisitions, and then they would be titled in the name of the city. If we ran into a challenge that was insurmountable from a private perspective, we would look to work with the city to exert some of your privileges in terms of eminent domain and property acquisition in that way.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Deming had a comment or a question.
I knew that would get him.
I didn't, well, I did, but the mayor, and he addressed the time value of money. I remember, and this project is, well, if the ward lines go well today, it will be 100% in my ward. And I remember when I first took office, we discussed this project, and it was about $125 million.
Yeah.
And now we're at $170 million. And so inflation on cost of goods is rising even faster than it has in the previous 8 years. Am I correct? I mean, so we're talking about going from a $170 million project now to, if we wait 2 years, to a $200 million project or so.
well over 200 million in 3 years, is our estimate.
Please use the mic, if you would, thank you.
Sorry. You're well, from our view, and, Ken and I have just been in another city dealing with 40% increases on prices in an existing bridge. I was concerned about this the day after the 2016 election. That was a little early. I don't think this is a temporary blip. It's not impossible to see 15% increases compounded per year going forward. It could be, hopefully we're wrong, but that would take this up to 260. At 15% a year, that's 25 million a year. That is the term that has been used in other cities and we deal with is escalation. So we had the grace of not having to deal with this kind of price escalation for a long time. And, we've been at this a number of years now. This issue's hitting us, this isn't like every year, this is hitting us every month and like every week now. So that's just kind of the current thing about that. So from a time value of money, that's an additional risk that wasn't there, that just wasn't there before. That
You guys are offering a fixed price at a current rate, correct? Regardless of what happens over the next 4 or 5 years during production and
Well, let me, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be, as of today, right now, yes. I mean, but I got to tell you, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, we will not be able to necessarily say the exact same price. So I don't want to mislead on any of this. This is going up exponentially right now, and we're seeing it on a daily basis. So when we mentioned at the start that there's certainty, the notion of certainty on funding, that means also the fixed price wherever we end up right now, and we'd have to recalibrate because it just keeps moving. So you get the certainty 100% of the funding, and and any kind of grant, which would take, from our experience, and I called into Washington on a couple this morning about kind of when this would be even resolved. From this infrastructure bill, it's likely it's going to take a year to even get grants. This is not a first quarter thing from what we understand. So if that assumption's wrong and you can get it sooner, that's great. But it could be a year before any kind of money's even allocated, which, 15% on that's 25 million right there, assuming that. And we have to actually plan for some of those kinds of risks. So certainty in terms of the price and the fully funding of literally writing the check right up now. The second certainty is getting it done. And I know Ryan glossed over it, but finding a contractor or construction contractor, finding the labor to go ahead and do this, and I used to work at FedEx, so I understand labor shortages pretty heavily. That's no small issue either. And there's a whole 2-year, I think one of the councilmen mentioned about, why 4 years? There's 2 years of prep and setup on right-of-way and environmental and all those things and 2 years of construction. So there's a bunch of work that needs to be done up front here. But it's still a relatively, it's an extremely compressed time from what we understand from outside of that. So I don't know if that helps at all, but we're just sharing the environment that we're seeing right now. This isn't our first presentation. We're in multiple cities. We're seeing it all the time. We're seeing this, and I'm just going to say one other thing, and I'll turn it over. There isn't one city we've gone to where someone's come up and hugged me afterwards and said, "Thank you for tolling us." I've yet to have that. But what we have found at the end of the day, after a lot of difficult conversations, is it's a hard trade-off decision. And the trade-off decision, or one way of thinking about that is, do we want to get a new structure now, local labor and all those kinds of things, an injection into the economy, but it's going to take a toll, or do we want to try and possibly it's going to push it down and it could be more expensive? We get those questions all day long. And it's, every community has to decide what's best for them, but we have something that if it resonates, we could deliver on now.
Any other questions from the council?
Yes.
Mr. Gaines?
Yeah, I may be repeating some of the questions that have already been asked. right now, we're looking at a $150 to $180 million construction project. And I think George brought up something about money being matched, federal funds and possibly FEMA grants, infrastructure deals. Is there an early opportunity to pay off early? Would that be written into the contract?
So, yeah, we can write that into the contract. Really, any sort of, we think of it as a refinancing, right? If the city in 20 years wants to contribute money to the project to either buy down tolls or end the contract early, that's an option that can be included in the contract.
Okay, and the other thing I had, you spoke about the discount with the parents taking their kids to school. You know, and of course, coming from some of the communities, every city that has challenges, underprivileged people who sometimes may not be able to afford that in some aspects. So that would be my other concern. I know the buses will be free, but if a child runs late and this child is coming from another side of town, but they have to cross the bridge and go to work at the same time instead of going all the way around. Those are some of the concerns that I have with this project. So if that could be addressed in some way, then that would be helpful. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the
Yes.
council? Ms. Newman?
The 4-year timeline, does that include just phase 1 or phase 1, 2, 3, and 4?
So that's for phase 2. Phase 1, I understand, is
We're,
under development or?
right, we have a plan, and we're waiting on some I guess, some funding either through Chrissy or Ray's, and maybe some of our use tax can be used to extend, you know, the south part of phase 2 to Coliseum. That's I guess we could have integrated that into the ball game, but that's, Steve, 15 more million, I think, is what is needed for that. And we're trying to get those numbers together from various sources. We're going to move on that sooner than later.
Yeah, I'll say as part of our proposal in talking to the city, we have offered to make up the balance of that funding. But as I understand, the city's continuing to look for, you know, more traditional public sources for phase 1, the extension to 90. And then regarding phase 3, which is the new bridge to I-10, we've offered what's called a feasibility study to study some of the environmental impacts, the traffic impacts of that project. So, you know, that'll just sort of get the ball rolling on that phase of the project. But in terms of the schedule and our delivery, it's for the phase 2 bridge and roadway.
I just have one question that's bugging me. So I'm a ne'er-do-well, as some would agree, who lives along the coast but not in Biloxi, and I'm using that Pops Ferry Bridge. I don't want no stinking transponder account. You're gonna have to catch me. So how do you catch them? What do you do? How do you run that down?
Yeah, so the all-electronic system has cameras. It'll take a picture of your license plate. You know, your license plate will be looked up, and then an invoice will be sent to your house. That's how those accounts are told.
I know where it's going.
Well, okay, so now I'm notified. Now what?
Yeah.
So,
When are you coming to get my car?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
It's an AR problem then, okay.
Good question there, Paul.
Mr. Lawrence.
On the south side, what side you gonna build a bridge on?
So it's going to be east of the existing structure.
Okay, so you're not affecting any businesses on the south side?
No, so the landing or the touchdown point would be, I believe it's currently a vacant lot.
Atkinson, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the landing point of the bridge is going to be a little bit further south just to make way for the higher bridge. But we don't anticipate any businesses being relocated.
And the last question, if we pass something, say in January, how long will it take you to finish the bridge?
So if we said go in January,
No, just just
Yeah.
throwing that at you.
It would follow that
You're right for that.
that 4-year timeline. So our target is by the end of 2025.
Say again?
By the end of 2025. Yeah, 4-year timeline.
All right, thank you. You something, Felix?
Any other questions from the council? All right, if not, thank you, Mr. Dolan.
Thanks,
Nice
Ron.
presentation.
Good job. Thank y'all for being here, and I'm sure we'll, the fuse is lit, and I think, we're looking forward to, the right solution. Steve, would you want to make any comment on what we've done? We've engaged Steve and Neil Schaefer to kind of parallel and do the horsepower we need in order to make sure we're moving down the right path together with UBP.
Yeah, this is Steve Tweed with Neil Schaefer. Steve?
Yeah. Yeah. You can use the handheld.
Might be better with the handheld.
There you go.
How about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Thank
you,
Off
Mayor.
and on, that's right.
So I would like to just talk a little bit about the history of the corridor. Pops Ferry Road Corridor is one of your functionally classified roads in the city of Biloxi. These are your arterials and your collectors, but they're not your city streets. And so what that means is, as a functionally classified road, it's eligible for federal money. And the federal money can come to you through congressional earmarks or through some of these grants, through MDOT administered program funds, or from Gulf Regional Planning Commission. They have federal money that you can spend on these corridors. And these federal funds usually require a match. 80-20 is the most common match. So over the years, Pops Ferry Road has been widened in sections and improved using federal money with a city match. So that's kind of how the widening's been going. These congressional earmarks, they've been used to kind of get this project off the ground. Y'all had an earmark, and that was used to do the environmental process and to perform the design for the project. So that's kind of where you are. There's some of that earmark money left over, and so that earmark money is what's going to pay for the reevaluation of this environmental document. That'll be 80-20 money, and I think that's the contract that was just added to your agenda, so that'll be 80-20 federal earmark money. And what this environmental document does is it's required by Federal Highway Administration on all projects that use federal funds. It's kind of a compilation of individual studies, and they look at the natural and the human environment. So what's in that environmental document, you have like traffic capacity, wetlands, noise, threatened and endangered species, historic residences, historic structures, and then how many people you're relocating. And there's other stuff, but basically you look at all those different things when you do an environmental document. And then you have a lot of public involvement. You engage the public, you show them what the impacts are, and that kind of helps you decide what your project needs to be. So that environmental document is not an environmental permit. That's just a document that kind of commits you to building a particular project. So you have an approved environmental document for this bridge. It was approved in 2019, but that environmental study did not include a tolling component. So that's what that contract basically does. There are a few other individual studies that are going to need to be updated. I think they've added a new aquatic species to the threatened and endangered species list, so we'll look at that. We'll have to update some other things, but basically, we're going to do a toll feasibility study and add a tolling component to the environmental document. We're going to have a lot of public meetings and public involvement along the way and reevaluate that document. That has to be done before you can move forward. Now, one thing that the mayor has charged me with is make sure that this corridor remains eligible for federal funding. So that's one of the reasons we have to reevaluate this environmental document. Then, like George says, if you want to add a federal grant or you're able to get some money from the state through their federal appropriation, you can apply it to this project. So we have to have this environmental document for that purpose. Now, with the new infrastructure bill that was just passed, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, there are some grant opportunities. You know, there's the large bridge program, the competitive bridge program we talked about, $12.5 billion. That money's going to go somewhere. You know, is it a long shot? Well, it all depends on the merits of your project. And if you have some of the funding in place, whether it's private funds or public funds, and you have a need, I think these grants are realistic. I've seen Gulfport's getting grants, Hattiesburg gets grants. So there's no reason why Biloxi can't get a federal grant for this bridge. You know, if you don't, maybe you have an option, but if you do, you want to keep this corridor eligible for federal money. So that's what we're trying to do with this contract, and also representing the city going forward. I want to make sure that we keep it eligible for federal money. We do all of the procurement right for engineering services, buy the right-of-way according to federal guidelines, procure your contractor according to federal guidelines, and follow all those steps. Make sure that you stay eligible for federal money. So that's, first step is that contract that y'all have today, so.
Stephen, I think you're saying that all this competition for these federal monies, we're at every late stage and level, almost all of them are going to have some sort of private contribution to be successful in the award. UBP would almost help that or be part of that private contribution. Is that correct?
Correct. Like, say that one of these federal grant programs was an 80-20 match, and your project was $200 million. You're going to have to still come up with $40 million. If it's a 50-50 match, you're going to have to come up with $100 million. So even though getting a federal grant can significantly reduce the amount of money that you have to recoup through tolls or whatever other finance mechanisms you have, you're still going to have some local money to match the federal. I can almost guarantee it's not going to be 100% federal money on any grant.
Even if it's going to be 80-20 money, to do 180 times 20%, where we're going to come up with $40 million.
Right. I'm hearing that for bridges under 100 million, it's 80-20, and for bridges over 100 million, it's probably 50-50. Now, the guidance hasn't been published on that. We'll have to wait and see. But there will be local match required with any federal grant.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you, Steve.
Anything else, Mr. Mayor?
I'm good. Thank you. Appreciate everybody. And like I said, it's going to take some great minds to pull this off, and I think we got some great minds. I didn't say they're all in this room, but we have some great rooms.
All right, does that conclude the mayor's report?
Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Does that conclude the mayor's report?
Yeah. Yes, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, that brings us to the council report. We'll start on my right. Mr. Barrett, anything?
I'll be brief. I messaged you, Mr. Leonard, a couple of times about some signage in Eastland and Glen Eagle, and I just wanted to check on the status of that, as well as, since they've shut down the Cedar Lake on-ramp, we have a lot more traffic coming down Woolmarket Road, and at certain times in the day that'll get backed up, and so we have a lot of traffic trying to avoid that, so they're cutting through on Larkin and Sparrow to get back out to 67, and I was just wondering if we could get some signage.
Headed a work request to the sign shop for a slow children playing signs, with emphasis on children playing. So I've seen that sign done badly before. Anyway, the sign shop's got it for action.
Okay.
It was Eastland and
then Glen Eagle.
Glen Eagle, right.
Yeah, I think Glen Eagle has Sonoma and Glen Eagle Drive. There's two roads in there, and then Eastland is just a circle. But if we could add Larkin and Sparrow, some kind of signage, because we have a lot, especially commercial vehicles, cutting through on Sparrow and Larkin, trying to avoid that traffic that we're getting because of that on-ramp. I had a guy send me a video of a dump truck doing 50 down Sparrow the other day. I mean, it's a very small road. And so if we can get some kind of signage and maybe even one of the digital signs out there while that is closed, just to help out. And that's all I have for today.
I'm happy to report that our speed trap on Hudson Crone seems to be working.
Yeah, I haven't had any more complaints since since they showed up, so hopefully so. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Mr. Glavin, anything?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to point out a couple of things in my report. The Biloxi Soccer Organization had their kickoff of the new season. Very well attended. Great job by Parks and Recreation getting that event ready. Shout out to their league president, Billy Carroll, for a great job that he did. The weather was great, and they had hundreds of families and kids that participated, and it's just good to see the community, getting out and the energy that we need to see. Drainage from Lanyap Apartments. I'm still getting complaints from some residents from the back of Lanyap Apartments over to Brody Road and Brazier Road. Actually, it's Tribe Drive. I think it turns into Tribe Drive. So we need to do something about that or assess it. I know you got a lot on your plate, Mike, but that's another one that we need to kind of assess and see what's going on.
Lanyap, not Brody.
Lanyap is the apartments.
Yeah.
And it's on Tribe Drive behind the Lanyap Apartments.
So
it's Cedar Lake.
The source of the water, the apartments?
Is coming from the apartments, the drainage from the apartments. And then met with 4 or 5 of the residents out on Road 526. They would like to consider vacating a private road for the city. They also need some easements and variances for city and sewer. They are completely on well, independent of city and sewer. So that may be something we need to look at. And
I saw that note. I was curious how many houses are out there.
there's some new builds out there, the Agri-Guards, the Jumavilles, Mr. Pace.
About 7 or 8, I think.
Yeah, there's at least 7 or 8 homes out there now. The Newmans, Jeremiah and Kelly, among others. And then finally, I just want to make a comment on something that's on the agenda today, the ward lines. I know we had a first reading. I know we'll have more discussions. But I've tried to spend some time with a few residents that this is going to affect. I've rode the new proposed. I know it's not set in concrete, but every 10 years we do this, and it makes sense to balance out the wards and make sure there's a fairly even distribution of the population. So I'm looking forward to doing it sooner rather than later. 8 years ago, we did it right in the middle of the election, and it was very controversial. And I think the sooner we take care of this piece of business, the better. If we need to take a little bit more time, that's fine, but I'm for getting it settled sooner than later. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Glavin. Mr. Deming.
I don't have much. I've spoken with everyone about issues prior to the meeting. However, I did speak with some of the bridge partners, and I wanted to host a ward meeting here in the next couple of months, maybe at the beginning of January after all the holidays, if you guys are willing to attend at that point to discuss this with the majority of the residents that it will directly impact. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Deming. Ms. Newman?
Yeah, I just wanted to, FYI, we did LED lighting throughout all of Hiller Park, made it much more brighter, safer, and we actually ended up saving money, just FYI.
Thank you, Mr. Guines.
Yeah, I just had one issue concerning one of my residents. With some of the infrastructure work, he had to do some repairs. So I would like for us to kind of start mainstreaming some of the way we take care of our residents. We still in the taking care of residents' business, and I was a little disappointed in some of the way it went about. So if we can pay attention to detail and make sure we, if we say something to our residents, we need to hold up to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guines. Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, we had another trash can issue. I called Fofo this morning.
I went out and looked at that trash can. There wasn't anything in it.
Say again?
I said, I went out and looked at that trash can. There wasn't any in it. What there was a lot of trash on the side of the road.
No,
It was in front of the vacant lot next to it. And I've got that scheduled now.
It's the trash can at 300 Howard Avenue.
At 300 Howard.
Right, I didn't see any debris.
Clean as a
The
whistle.
trash can wasn't picked up.
Well, I've got a picture of the big piece of equipment that was parked in front of the building while they couldn't get to the can. I'll share that with you. There was a big piece of engineering equipment, construction equipment parked right in front of the building during the time that they were being picked up, so they couldn't get to the can. So we've called it in, and they're going to go look at it. In the meantime, that big pile of trash that's next door, I sent that to Public Works, and they'll send one of our grapple trucks. We've just got one operational truck, grapple truck right now, but they did 55 loads in 2 weeks. So they're hustling with that one truck we've got, just picking up the stuff that everybody else misses.
Well, maybe I ought to get another truck. They may should have more than one truck. They got that many loads. I mean, they need to take care of the
Council approved
citizens.
buying another one this year, so we've got that teed up.
You know, and the lady called, like you said, she called them, and she get no satisfaction. That's why she called me. So I called Fofo. No, so they do call. She
Yeah.
just wasn't. She
Yeah,
just
the
wasn't
first thing I
satisfied
did
with
was
that.
I took a picture of the codes on the can to make sure that they were where they were supposed to be. Because we find that problem sometimes when they go missing from one place and show up in another. But those were legitimate cans. There's not a certificate of occupancy on that building right now, so we're surprised it's occupied. Jerry? I said, we're surprised it's occupied since they don't have a CO.
This is Project Believe. Howard and Oak. We'll check out.
Yeah, 300 Howard.
So just like you said, we following up.
Yeah.
I said, we just following up with the people call in. They pay for this service.
Oh, they're legitimate. I'll check that out.
Okay.
We'll check it out.
Anything else, Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, on the Bayview, are they on schedule to finish the Bayview walkway?
Yeah, I think so.
They seem to be doing pretty good there.
Yeah.
They got a couple in.
Yeah.
What happened to the microphone?
Mark,
Mr. Lawrence, they're about 30 days out from completing. As long as this weather holds up, he's got a lot of equipment and labor out there, so I'd say within the next month.
My question was right there by the launch. Is all the grass is still there? What we gonna do with that? We're gonna leave that grass right there?
That's a good question. I noticed that. I don't know if he was doing that just to keep people off the boardwalk for right now, but it's going to tie into the ramp.
You know, and I was wondering, it's nice, and the thing's about 2 feet higher than what it was, so that's great for the high tide. But the grass is sticking past the concrete. Are we gonna cut the grass on the other side?
Okay.
You did? Because you don't want to see the grass. I'm just saying, you know, we got the beautiful concrete now, a nice walkway. I don't want the grass growing up. That's the idea what we did this, to get rid of that.
We have a plan on that. On the,
Yeah. Right.
And I don't know who handles the roundabout on Forest. And I mean, they tearing that up again. Yeah.
On Forest Avenue.
Right.
Yeah, that's the sidewalk that was supposed to
I mean, they got it all tore up, dug up again.
No, when did they dig it up? They've already, that section about 10 foot was concreted. As the last time I saw it was 3 days ago. It's a sidewalk around the center.
Okay, on the outside, they got all the outside dug up. Not the roundabout itself, on the side of the road and everything.
On the side of the road, I
Somebody's
don't know.
doing that.
I'll have to drive by and see what you're talking about. It's still working, it's in the, it's right to work area.
Yeah. Who's doing it, what they doing? You know, the sidewalk don't line up now, the sidewalk's off about 2 feet.
BMA's interest, yeah.
So that's
We
the
got
question.
we got a plan to look at it.
Everybody asks us about the question. And the last thing, we had first Friday, the Friday of the month.
Right.
At the Bucktown All-Stars in Fofo Gillage. He almost ruined the band. People thought it was leaving.
They play these songs, I gotta run up there, you know what I'm saying? It's
Too high.
Yeah, it was. That was fun. You even had a good time. Dr. Tisdale was there. You had a good time. I think everybody had a good time. Kay, where she's here, that was a good event.
It was a nice time.
Yeah.
I had to go home early. Anything else, Mr. Lawrence?
That's it.
Okay. We've asked on with insurance now that we've switched our third-party administrator to Maestro, and I've been pressing for a couple of years just to have the administration, somebody speak with the employees by department, just to let them know how the process works, who to contact, answer any questions. Cy Easterly's happy to explain any details, and his staff, but I know that we had COVID in between, but I just know from time to time, we get calls. I assume other council members get calls. I get questions about insurance, but we've got Bancorp South with Cy Easterly. I mean, that's what we pay for. He's happy to do that, but I really think we should do that. And the sooner we can get it going, my suggestion.
I agree. You know, there's some growing pains with the switch, but I think those are settled. You know, at least, you know, things that I've come across, it seems to have a transition was pretty smooth, and I think now is the proper time to now let's engage on some of the things that will give us, the city of Biloxi and its employees, a long-term benefit. Stay healthy, do the right things, we'll be better off.
Well, but I don't know if y'all are going to set up a schedule to do that. I'd like to be informed. I'd like to go. I'd like to hear the questions. But it's just, I'm tired of asking after a couple of years. So I'd appreciate that if we could get that going. I think the employees would appreciate it as well. Next item, self-addressed envelopes with water bills. A couple of months ago, we thought it was a good idea. I mean, it's just printing an envelope, sticking it in the other envelope. Folks can write a check and drop it in the mail and get it back.
You know, there's probably a combination of those kinds of things. What we're looking at is some automation to make things a lot more graceful. Right now, you only have one option. So, you know, we sent out about 14,000 bills. And if there are some ways, you know, through technology to reduce that, and then those who do not use the technology that's available, those, you know, if we reduce it to 5,000 or 6,000 of those envelopes without impacting anybody, that's the course I think we need to look down. But I agree with you.
Right. Well, I mean, it's just, I mean, we could do it if it ends up being 5,000 or 6,000 envelopes a month. I think we have 14,000 accounts.
Right.
Folks pay for it digitally, great, but some are not going to do that. Some are never going to do that. It'd just be nice to have stick an envelope, self-addressed.
We'll continue to look.
Get it back with a stamp. I see Sherry Bell in the back. Sherry, if you'd come up, I had asked earlier about playground equipment at Pennzoil Park, and I know that you were looking into that.
Yeah, all the playground from Pennzoil, Severo, and O'Reilly Fitness has been given to purchasing to bid out. All the specifications are done, and they've been given to Keith to go ahead with the packets.
Okay,
I'm hoping to get them back in a couple of weeks, and then, of course, you know, with all the shipping and the manufacturer problems, because Mr. George, the borders at Circle Park are on back order because of shipping issues for the playground. So just to let you know, but I'm hoping to have everything completed, installed and all by the spring, early spring, or before that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bell. That concludes my report. That brings us to the public agenda and citizens' comments. Anyone who wishes to speak to the council has 3 minutes to do so. We'll set aside up to 45 minutes if there are that many people who wish to speak. When you're recognized, please come to the table. Speak clearly into the mic, your name and your address so the clerk can record that accurately and sign in there on the sign-in sheet. Mr. Ramsey, you're up.
What you gonna hear?
Good afternoon. My name is Gilbert Ramsey. I'm a military veterans outreach specialist in the community. Today, Gina Romano is having a seminar online. She's a chamber with USPTO to introduce humanitarian patent. That's what I'm doing with her. But right now, I'm introducing something else. I'm introducing Blue Economy Quality of Life Initiative, Coastal One Initiative, with Restored Council because I have a BP contract, incorporate this higher learning education opportunity, retain the students. And also, you know Eric Sparks with the Master Naturalist Program, Mississippi State University, to encourage people to get outdoors and go fishing. What I'm looking at, assistive technology, assistive tourism, okay? Because I want to enable everybody opportunity like we all do, to enjoy outdoor activities, to enjoy our community. So what I've looked at all the islands. I looked at the pier they built on Deer Island. I looked at the track they built on Deer Island. I've discussed with multiple individuals in the community because I'm just that type person. No one's a stranger to me. Well, also I reached out to Lieutenant Governor yesterday to incorporate L3C Corporation. L3C Corporation is where you can incorporate 501c3 when LLC. And so I'm doing all this to incorporate everything together as a packet. So I'm looking at the islands. When you're talking about the islands, you're talking about opportunities. You're talking about the Blue Economy Quality of Life Initiative University of Southern Mississippi is initiating at Gulfport Harbor. So I looked at this because I want to make sure it's handled appropriately, represent Mississippi more appropriately instead of Mississippi burning. So I'm discouraged about this. I want to enable everybody to have this vision and this opportunity for all God's children internationally to come to Mississippi. I've introduced myself, it was called Mobile, Alabama, 2014 Congress Tourism. And what it was, all the country came around the world, introduced tourism opportunities. I reached out to Assistive Tourism around the world, an organization called ENAT, E-N-A-T. And all these organizations came back to me, inquire what type of products and services I have to offer. So what I've done, I retrofitted everything to accommodate the physically impaired. I have done this on my own provision. I've been networking since Governor Barber days. I've been talking to y'all for quite a while. The talk is over with. First of the year, I'll be in Jackson to do the L3C Corporation with the Lieutenant Governor and with all my associates. And I have this for y'all to make sure it's come forth for initiative for everybody's capabilities. I have this because I want to take my family, my brothers and sisters, to the island. When I talk about brothers and sisters, I'm talking about all military families, because that's what they are. They're my brothers and sisters. And I'm trying to help you realize this. If we can take them to islands, what is that going to encourage, like Gulf Now Seashore? They have a little boat that goes on the swamp. What is that? Come on now. Let's take them to islands. Let them enjoy it like we do. They got to think on Moby Mat and Moby Chair.
Mr. Ramsey, your time is up.
Oh. Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Is there anybody else on my left, your right? Mr. Miller?
Good afternoon. We had a group here that was going to try to speak in the citizen forum, but unfortunately time took it, so we're going to move that to next time we're here on the subject. But first thing I want to bring up, Circle Park still does not have any of its lights working in it, and we need help getting that up and going again. Homelessness is up, seems to be more rampant than ever in there, and some of our petty crime and stuff like that. So, we could use the help in there. Next week, or next time that you'll meet, some of the people from around Lighthouse Park want to be here to talk about some of the homeless situation in there, the concession trailers that aren't moved, et cetera, et cetera. I got off on something there when we were talking about the bridge and the toll. They tried this on West Bank in Florida by putting a toll on the bridge coming out there. The businesses in that area suffered because people knew that, hey, I can stay in New Orleans and go shopping or anywhere else around there before I'm going to go to toll. I don't think we have anything interesting enough south of Pops Ferry that I wouldn't turn around and go back to D'Abreuil and go shopping. So my concern is the loss of business that could happen in there. Second of all, it's going to turn people around and put them down I-10 where we're in the process of putting the new gate in, and I think it could really, really create some problems. So I think the toll is just something that really needs to be looked at. We're unique in the aspect, we have two north-south corridors, and that's it. And if I think on the short term, it's really, really going to hurt business in there. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anybody else on my left, your right, wish to speak or address the council? My left, your right. Anybody on my right, your left, wish to address the council? Anybody in the back? Last call. All right, that concludes citizens' comments. That brings us to the policy agenda. This is a second reading. If the clerk would read item A, please.
Ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances to designate new ward lines.
The motion was made by Mr. Lawrence and the second by Mr. Glavin. Mr. Lawrence, comments?
I don't know if everybody looked at this. Does anybody wants to amend anything, change anything? I don't know if we have that option to do that now. It's pretty much up to us to do what we want to do. The only thing I'd like to say about this, I don't care when you put it in effect. You live in the ward you're elected in. Changing these ward lines did not change anything for where we sit right now. I represent a certain area. That's why I got elected for that certain area. So that's what I represent. With changing that thing there, that don't go into effect until the next group of people come in office, whoever that might be. But right now, we got elected for certain areas, and it's fine. I have no problem changing anything. Maybe we need to look at something, add streets, take streets away. It's all about numbers. Peter, you got any suggestions?
No.
The lawyer not talking? What is this your problem? What is the problem there?
Now, I mean, to your point of when do they take effect, you have to let, I mean, it clearly has to take effect before the election so the people can elect the councilman in that ward. So, I mean, it's just like any other ordinance, as far as I read it. Once you change the ward lines, they're changed. It's just a little different this year that the census happened to occur 3 years before the next election. Or in past years, you've had a census and nothing was done until 6 months before the election, which technically was not the right way to do it. So the ward lines change, and then, as far as I see it, you'll be the councilman for those people in your new ward lines.
I don't see it that way.
Okay.
I got elected for a certain area, that's who I represent. You add that more to me, that's fine, but that's someone else's ward. So I mean, until you get elected again, then you represent the new area. It's just my opinion.
All right, anything else, Mr. Lawrence?
No.
All right, Mr. Glavin, any comments?
Already made my comments.
Anybody else have a comment? Mr. Barrett?
I just tend to agree with what Mr. Glavin said earlier. I believe that while there's certain people and areas that I hate to lose in my ward because I've got an excessive amount of people, I understand the importance of it, and I think to keep from causing confusion like in the past, that it's better to go ahead and do this now. And as far as opinions go, I think, we just get a ruling from the Secretary of State or Attorney General on when this goes into effect. And, we have to go by what they say as far as when it goes into effect. But while I hate to lose some people, I understand the need that we have to, make this happen. And I think that sooner's better than later.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Is that it? Mr. Guines, comment?
Yeah, I'm kind of like George and Councilman Glavin. We are elected to a certain area, but we are a team at the end of the day. And so wherever one falls weak, we all have to pull that cable toe. We pull that cable and help everyone out. So thank you.
A good example, under what's proposed, I'll gain the western half west of Rich Avenue and Bay Vista, south of Old Bay Road. So if I currently live on the west side of Rich Avenue, and I will wake up tomorrow with a burst water line in my front yard, do I call Mr. Deming or do I call Mr. Tisdale?
I think either of y'all would take their call.
My phone number will not change, correct?
Right. And I think during the transition period, I would expect that, he would continue to, if Mr. Deming got that call, he would take the call, refer him to the right person, and then maybe let them know, the ward line is changing, and it's up to him, I guess.
Okay, well, I'm happy to take any compliments from the newly added area. I'll just say that. I'll send the complaints to Mr. Deming. Thank you. All right, we'll call for the question on item A. All in favor of the resolution or the ordinance as presented? Any opposed? None. It's a 7-0 vote for the clerk. God bless somebody out in the hall. All right, that brings us to item B on the agenda. If the clerk would read that that item.
Resolution granting conditional use to authorize a self-storage facility unit located at 13041 Lorraine Road.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that
By
motion.
Mr. Barrett.
I'll second it.
And a second by Mr. Glavin. Comments, Mr. Barrett?
I just have a couple questions for Mr. Creel. I wasn't at the Planning Commission meeting for this, and I see the general area on the map, but can you tell me exactly where this is?
There's some existing mini storage warehouses. This is at the intersection of Wool Market Road and Lorraine Road. This is on Lorraine Road north of Wool Market on the west side. And there's some existing ones in there that haven't been used for a long time.
Behind the Dollar General.
Right. Mr. Collins, that owns the store by you, has bought that property, and he wants to redevelop it in 4 phases.
So that property, because I didn't see the address that was on the paperwork on the map, that is between the Dollar General and the Ball
correct.
property, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right, no further questions.
Mr. Glavin?
I have none.
Any comments or concerns? Item B. There being none, all in favor of the resolution as presented? Opposed? Thank you. If the clerk would read item C, please.
Resolution granting minor subdivision final plat approval for property located at 2157 Harmanson View.
I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Ms. Newman. Is there a second? By Mr. Guines. Any comments, Ms. Newman? Mr. Guines? Any discussion? All right. All in favor? Any opposed? That's a 7-0 vote for the clerk. Thank you. Brings us to item D. If the clerk would read that item.
Resolution granting minor subdivision final plat approval for property located at 4251 Victoria Lane.
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion by Mr. Barrett
I'll second it.
and a second by Mr. Glavin.
Just taking a piece of property and splitting it, correct?
They're
Basically.
taking 2 lots and making 3 out of it, that's all.
No further questions.
All right. Mr. Glavin, anything?
Is this Ward 7 or Ward 6?
This is, this is.
I have no other questions.
6.5.
6.5. Any other questions or concerns? If not, we'll call for the question. All in favor of the resolution as presented? And there are none opposed. That's a 7-0 vote. Thank you. That brings us to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Moved.
By Mr. Lawrence. And a second by Mr. Guines. We'll start with Mr. Lawrence. Any particular items of concern, Mr. Lawrence?
Mike, we're buying $7,000 worth of equipment for engineering. Do we have engineers? I thought they all quit. Do we have anybody left?
Not funny.
Or is that for you?
Not funny. It's just a matter of moving the money from capital into tools and equipment. So it was just the items were GIS equipment, and it was thought that they were in one functional area, and actually it's a different functional area. The money's in the budget. We're just moving it from one bucket to another.
Are you still pretty much running the engineering department? Have we hired anybody?
Actually, some days they run me. I left at your place the engineering report for the week. And one of the things that'll be useful to you, I think, is there's a code there that tells you which engineer is responsible for every project. So you can call directly engineering and ask them.
I would call you because I thought you'd running the show, you know? It's all on you.
I could use a few less calls.
The next one is my favorite subject, E. Is this costing us any money for the court system?
No, so this is to allow the deputy clerks to swear in officers for their summons.
And David, like y'all training him some more, Bofo? He needs all the training he can get, kid. anything else. There's one question I want to ask on the one we added, the 476,000.
Which item?
I think that's going to be item
The one we
QQ.
added, what is it?
That's going to be the
QQ.
agreement with Neil Schaefer, Mr. Tweet.
I said we stated it's $476,000. That money is coming from a grant, or is that matching money, or we got to put up the money?
I don't have QQ.
QQ, this is the Neil Schaefer contract?
Oh, yeah, that's the
Yeah,
add-on.
Daniel Schaefer.
It's this one.
Okay. Now, there's already money in the existing Pops Ferry Bridge project, and so our portion would be a 20% match of the ultimate cost. For what Steve Tweed is going to do is to take the cost estimates and review those, and we're going to focus down and try to drill down to that major question. Is there anything that's existing in the history of this contract that would cut us off from any future federal funding? You know, that's a very important question, obviously.
I think there's some components in it that we're going to do some studies so that becomes a state aid road. Is that correct? Yeah, good, yeah, absolutely. Studies, I guess.
So one other thing that's in the scope of that contract that we didn't discuss earlier is detailed cost estimating. And also when we do the tolling study, we're going to do a traffic model so we can project what traffic will use the toll bridge. I mean, we know a current count. We can grow that over time based on historic growth. And then we can also see what happens when you introduce various tolls. You know, people will divert, take other routes. So you want to find an optimum number. So now you'll know the cost of the bridge, and you'll also know how much revenue can be generated with the bridge, and that'll help you in negotiations with, private funding sources. But right, the contract is 80-20 money, so 80% of it's federally funded.
How long is this contract for?
The contract is a 9-month contract, but we think we can finish in 6.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Gaines, anything?
I'm good.
Ms. Newman? Mr. Deming?
What the Altima's for?
There you go.
5 PP, it's a Nissan Altima.
BV?
It's on the administrative budget. How many vehicles do we have under the administrative budget?
2.
Just 2?
2. You had one already approved. This is the second one.
I mean, total. So how many vehicles does the city of Biloxi provide to the administration?
I can't tell you that off the top of my head. You're talking about the whole city of
And
Biloxi?
I just mean the administration. I don't mean the departments, like not Public Works, not just the mayor's administration, just
Got
that.
2 junkers on loan from the police department. We've got the mayor's
Don't be
car.
talking about my car like that. My car has 103,000 miles on it, 2013, but is that the one we're talking about replacing?
It is.
Okay.
Just, when you get a chance, just let me know.
Yeah.
Just curiosity.
Did you,
Yeah.
two cars behind it, right?
Thank you, Mr. Glavin. Anything?
none.
Admin, see that.
Just a note, I guess, on item J. That's change order 6, and this is really, for the clerk, it's a scrivener's error in there, I believe. The fourth whereas has written 2 days, TWO days, and then in parentheses following that, the number 14 days. So I think it was just a cut and paste error. I checked with Mr. Rhodey, and he said that the additional time being added as part of that change order is 14 days, not 2 days. That's just a point of clarification. You with me on that, Carrie? That's going to be item J. So anyway, just strike the word TWO. It's supposed to be 14 days. That concludes my comments. All right, all in favor of the consent agenda as presented? That's a 6-0 vote with Mr. Barrett out of the room. Any exceptions noted by the council members? None. Everybody's good with everything. All right, thank you. If the clerk would read,
Code enforcement.
excuse me, I'm sorry, it's not the clerk. We come to code enforcement hearings, and Mr. Creel's already on deck. We'll open this first hearing, Talman Sarah Lou, and the property is 367 Forest Avenue. Mr. Creel.
Property still in violation.
Okey-doke, and it seems we have seen this property before, if I recall.
Yes, sir, many times. It's been in bad shape. We've brought it before the council before. We've had several structures taken down on the property. We've had a swimming pool removed on the property. And other than this house, there is one small shed there that will be coming back later to get taken down.
Might you hazard a guess as to maybe how long we've been dealing with this property?
Well, Miss Lou bought it in 2015, so we've been dealing with her that long on this piece of property.
Okey-doke. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this property, Ms. Lou, or the property, 367 Forest Avenue? Mr. Miller, I think you're recognized.
Well, I think, as you heard, this property was purchased, I think, late 2015. The problem started immediately in 2016. Ms. Lou has definitely demonstrated to the city and both to the council that she is very good at her stories and has not followed through. There have been, over that period of time, approximately 6 different tenants in there each time. She claims to have sold it, has an agreement with them. The tenants usually end up with the shaft. The property ends up in worse shape. Since we were here in May and she made that spew with you all about how she's going to get right with Jesus, she has been absent. The neighbors are mowing the yards up front. The back, it's shoulder deep. The sheds, we're having problems with homeless people in it. One of our neighbors, which I think is going to speak here, we're having to constantly keep the gates up. This would be different in any other situation if just something was happening, but we're talking going on 5 years that nothing, absolutely nothing but deterioration. The ceilings are falling down and windows are broke out. The homeless recognize it as a place to go. This is an immense property in land size. There are 6 homes that surround it that are having to deal with this stuff. The police department can testify about how many times they've been called out on noise ordinances and whatnot out there. I just implore you all to just, let's be done with this. Since I said this last time here, since this was the Galat, whatever you want to call it, casino, and the murder happened there, everybody that has lived there has lost this house, unable to take care of it. I'm not one to say that there is such things as a bad home, but if there ever was one, this is it. It just refuses to let anybody live there and it move on. Every single time somebody's moved in, we've gone backwards. It is just, it's beyond the point that we just can't. Please, it's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anybody else wish to speak? Yes, sir. And just, if you would, state your name so we know who you are.
My name's Lyle Stevens. I own 363 Forest next door. I was going to go through a quick list of everything. I've owned the house since January 5th of this year. And so I can't speak to the last few years, but I can speak to this year. I've had 4 really good renters pass me up entirely on the house next door just sheerly because of the state of it. They look over there and they realize what's going to happen. You know, the L shape of that property goes out behind my house. And I've personally kicked probably 4 homeless people out of the back of that yard. And I keep I'm the one that keeps that fence that you saw in the photo kind of up. I keep it, locked onto my fence that I built, just kind of keep people out. Right now, the backyard's probably 5 foot tall in weeds. No one's touched it. I was here for the original meeting in May. And she had stated that, Miss Lou stated that she was going to keep it up, or she said she was going to get contractors in, something along those lines. Nothing at all has happened. I've constantly got rats coming in from that. You can see where they've cut under my fence, coming into my yard, and I just finally did get a good renter into my house, and they're starting to deal with having rodents come in specifically from that yard. Right now, I kicked vagrants out multiple times. There's code violations all over the house. You know, I'm an engineer. I tell you all about the plumbing I see running along the outside of the house. The contractors they have had come in to try to fix things just scabbed in, problematic fixes, obviously. They've got AC units on the top of the house that aren't even mounted down or anything. That's about it for me, to be quite honest. Yeah, so it's been an experience, though. I've lost a lot of money and had to invest a lot of money. I wouldn't have had to build that fence between me and them had that house not been in that state. I wouldn't have worried about it, That was $3,000 right there. So one thing after another. Luckily, I finally do have a renter in place, and I'd like to kind of get that taken care of for them. The shed that they're talking about in the back is directly behind my house, the entrance to it. And I've seen people coming in and out of that. And, beyond that, that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Anybody else wish to speak on this matter? Yes, ma'am. And if you would, please tell us your name.
My name is Lois Reedy, and I live at 1091 Columbus Street, Biloxi. This is Bay Terrace subdivision, and Mr. Miller and I represent a group. I think Mr. Tisdale's actually been in our group too. We have a very, very active group over there. We're trying to change the character of our neighborhood. It used to be lots of rentals, and now we have people moving in, and we're all doing a really good job, I think. And as I said, we have a very, very active group over there. Both of the properties on the code violations today, 2 of them are on Forest Avenue, and I don't want to take any more time. You've heard a lot, and I will just say this, that all of us have been put through a lot, and I could go on and on, which I won't, with both of these properties. So I appreciate
Yes,
your
ma'am.
time.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? If not, this hearing is closed. That brings us to the next hearing, item B, Southern Guarantee Mortgage Company, 157 Crawford Street. Mr. Creel?
This property is still in violation.
Is there anyone here to speak on 157 Crawford Street? There being no one, this hearing is closed. That brings us to the next hearing, Patricia Jane and Ralph Jones, 343 Forest Avenue. Mr. Creel?
This property is still in violation.
Yes, sir. If you would, please tell us who you are and your comments.
Ralph Jones.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones.
I am Ralph Jones. It's my house. I've been working on it. I just got out the hospital yesterday. I'm doing everything I can. I'm by myself. I have no help. I got a concrete guy supposed to come by and help me fix my pool so I can get it back up to par. I don't want to bulldoze it or fill it in because that's $100-something pool. I want to fix it, and I'm going to. I just need a little bit of time. I couldn't do it this past year. It rained every other day or every day. Right now, we're in a dry spell. I'll be able to get in. I'll be able to get well points. I'll be able to get my pool fixed. As far as, what do y'all want? What do I need to do to appease the neighborhood, you? What do I need to do?
Mr. Creel is probably best suited to answer that question.
The house itself that we're talking about is not in that bad a shape, but we've had some vehicles around the house that need to be removed. Also, there's just some junk around the property that needs to be cleaned up. And then, of course, the pool is, it's drained right now. It's got some water in the bottom of it, but typically it's full of water and was stagnant.
Okay, so, Mr. Jones, everything Mr. Creel said apparently still exists, which is why you're in this hearing today, so.
As far as the vehicles, I've only got 3 vehicles now. Back when this started, there was probably 5, maybe 6. I've got 3. The pool, yes. Like I said, it rained every day this year until the last couple weeks. I've been working on the property. I've been cutting trees, bushes. I've been doing everything I can to get. I got rid of the riffraff at the house at 339 next door to me, which is one of my rentals. People moved in, started selling drugs, turned it into a trap house. The president, or whatever you call it, come on and said, you can't kick anybody out. That did it right there. They got to stay there for almost 2 years, rent-free. All it did was cost me money and a heartache.
So you have 3 vehicles in your yard now?
Yeah, that's it.
Do they all run? Are they all properly tagged?
I got one I've applied for a title for.
Okay. The pool, how long will it, what work needs to be done to the pool?
The pool is leaking around the drain.
How long will it take to repair that?
I got to get a pool company. I'm having trouble getting a pool company to come over. So I've got my own theory of how to put in well points. And I'm going to put some well points around the deep end of the pool. I'll have it up and running by January. I hope by January.
Mr. Creel, in the past, I noticed we had a 30-day extension. Has there been any improvement in the property in the past 30 days?
Nothing has been done in the past 30 days.
Okay, nothing appreciable. All right. Any?
Mr. Jones asked me to speak out for you. I had with us, he has been on.
Okay, Mr. Miller, if you would, let somebody get you a microphone, please. Go ahead,
I'm Mr. Jones's neighbor, and he does have some unique circumstances, and maybe he has failed somehow, some way to not come through like he needed to, but I will testify in front of you all today that he has been hauling stuff to the street regularly. As you can see, he's not the fittest of the bunch, and he's trying really hard, and I don't mean anything bad against you. So I kind of take that into consideration. I mean, it is one of these properties that it's going to take some time, okay? Thank you.
All right, I'll fish for an extension. Is there anyone making a motion for an extension?
January?
60 days.
I'll move to extend for 60 days to give Jones the opportunity to get up to date.
All right, so there's a 60-day extension, motion by Mr. Deming, and it was seconded by Ms. Newman. Any discussion? All right, we'll call for the question on a 60-day extension. All in favor? It's approved on a 6-0 vote. Mr. Jones, you have 60 days to remedy the situation, and we'll see how you do. Good luck, sir. Okay. That brings us to the routine agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Moved.
I'll second.
Mr. Lawrence. All right, any discussion? Mr. Lawrence, I know you have a
Walt
question.
Brody.
Good afternoon, council. So I believe Mike Leonard updated you at the last council meeting. We received the 1.285 million. There's nothing current in the pipeline from MEMA. That's because we haven't had any pay apps since the previous council. We have submitted 2 new pay apps that we just received the other day to MEMA. So hopefully by the next council meeting or the first one in December, I'll be able to tell you there's some money in the pipeline for us.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Lawrence?
That'd be it.
All right, any
Thank
other
you.
questions from the council? I'd just like to note for the clerk that under the routine agenda, there is no section 5. It was omitted. They're numbered 1, 2, 3. I don't know, we may be missing a section 3 too. I see a 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7, so we may be missing a section 3 and 5. All right, all in favor of the routine agenda as presented? That's a 5-0 vote. I'll entertain a motion to recess.
So moved.
By Mr. Lawrence,
Second.
second by Mr. Glavin. Any discussion, all in favor? It's a 5-0 vote. Thank you. Our next meeting is the 23rd, next Tuesday.